I'm glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Guys, tonight is a conversation with a fellow West Ham supporter who I had the privilege of chatting to the other week. As you probably would have seen from the title, this is Tom Atherton, who's regularly on Hammers Chat. How you doing there, Tom?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad for Tuesday night. Before we go into things in more detail, I just need to do a quick shout out to the channel sponsor, 3retro.com. Please click the link in the description below that will take you directly through to the West Ham section of their website, where you can purchase retro kits from the 60s all the way through to the early 2000s, including the 1976 home kit and the 1980 FA Cup final kit that inspired basically next week's shirts. There's also Admiral and Umbro track jackets, polo shirts, T-shirts and sweatshirts to go check those out. But you don't have to purchase any of those West Ham kits. You can buy anything through that link, any of the retro gear. So if you know anybody that likes, oh, bloody hell. My mic's gone. Oh, bugger. Hang on. I know I should have checked that. It was working fine a couple of seconds ago.
Good start.
Exactly, the pleasures of live. So go check those Umbro and Admiral track jackets, polo shirts, sweatshirts and T-shirts. Any purchases that you make through the affiliate link for the first 20 purchases will be going directly through to Isla's Fight. So go check those out as soon as you can. There's only £8.40 to send over to the charity so far, from what I'm understanding. So go check those. So make those purchases as quickly as possible. So basically, Tom, let's talk about you for a good long time, I should imagine. How did you get into West Ham?
For me, it was, I guess, like the same as most people. My dad grew up a West Ham fan, and both on my mum's side and my dad's side, it was 3 or 4 generations of West Ham fans. So it just kind of came to be naturally. I don't know, unfortunately, if that's a good thing or not. But yeah, it was my dad that had originally sort of got me into West Ham.
Cool, because you are the only other supporter I know that is 4th generation, the same as me. So that makes it quite entertaining. Because when people say to me, if I'm talking about stuff and they'll say, well, how long have you been in West Ham? I said 4 generations, mate. How long has it been with you? Your dad? It's just that seems to be a lot of people's automatic thing, that for some reason, when me and a few mates were talking about this on Saturday, there seems to be some attitude out there that you're a West Ham fan only if you meet certain criteria. Really irritates me, and a lot of the guys over in, like for example, the guys in American Hammers, they really take umbrage with that, because they don't go to games often enough, they're not West Ham supporters. But the other thing is, I wanted to ask you was, because according to your Twitter profile and the conversation that you and I had as well, you're actually in Leeds Trinity University doing sports journalism. How did that sort of come about?
Yeah, that was I never planned on doing sports journalism. I was in Sheffield for 2 years studying sports coaching, because I thought after college that was kind of the route I was going to go down. I thought sort of PE teach kind of thing. And then, I don't know, when I was in Sheffield, I'd been watching sort of every West Ham game like most of us do on streams and whatnot, and I had opinions sometimes. And I think after I sort of met with Gio and everybody else for the first time, they mentioned about Claret and Hugh and stuff like that. So I wrote an article for Claret and Hugh. It just kind of went from there. And I thought, well, actually, I really enjoyed doing this. So, if I wanted to do it for a career, then I best go and sort of switch unis and get started. So, I left Sheffield, took a year off, and then moved over to Leeds, where I've been for the last 3 years. So I'm going into my final year in September. Fingers crossed. Like I said, it's hopefully a dream. I'm a bit older now because I've been to uni 2 times. So I'm 24, just turned. But yeah,
slip of a child. I'm 15 years older than you, mate.
So yeah, no, it's it's definitely good here. It's the smallest, uni in Leeds, because there's 2 other ones, but it's kind of more tailored around sports journalism. And we had Gabby Logan was our chancellor for the last few years. I think she just left her position, so they get Jeff Stelling and a few other people down to give talks now and again. So yeah, no, it's quite a good university. There's a couple of Sky Sports presenters that started off at Leeds Trinity, so yeah, fingers crossed.
Good. It's a nice little avenue for you, mate. That's pretty impressive, mate. I mean, I know. Obviously, I'm guessing your long-term goal is to get into not necessarily Sky Sports, but to get into that sort of level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I didn't always necessarily sort of believe in myself, but and I've got cheeky Charlie Walsh who backs me every 5 seconds to tell me, you keep going, mate, you keep pushing forward. So I think sometimes if you don't sometimes have that self-belief, being around the likes of Gio and Charlie and having people telling you're good at what you do it's always sort of the benefits, I guess, and hopefully leads to success. So, if I ever do make it somewhere along the lines of, I don't know, Sky Sports or Beat Reporter or something like that, then, I know the people I've got lined up to thank for it. So.
Well, quite. I mean, talking to Charlie's in the chat. Hello, mate. It's good to see you. Also, Wally Welsh is in there as well, and DJ Blokey, aka Mark, who is next week's guest, is also in and out of the chat by the looks of things. But yeah, no, I was touching on your relationship with Charlie. How many times over the last week have you had 2 a.m. gaming sessions?
Do you know, last week, actually, I've been really busy. I went and got myself a job the other day, which was a part-time job anyway, working in a bar. So I've not really had much time sitting have a game with Charlie. But usually it's on average, I'd say 3 or 4 times a week. Our sleeping patterns are notoriously messed up. As I'm sure, I'm sure as American Hammer's going to attest to, when we're sort of in their chats at 2 or 3 in the morning, and they're all like, "Why the hell are you guys awake?" So yeah, night owls, myself and Charlie. But it's always good fun.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, mate. It's that was the funny thing. I know we were joking about that the other day, and you sent me a message about 3 o'clock in the morning saying, "What do you mean this sort of time?" So yeah, that was quite cool. But yeah, so just to get some background as you as a Hammer itself, were you ever a season ticket holder at the Bowling, or?
No, never at the Bowling. I think it was my dad it was an avid watcher, and he would sort of go to games as much as possible, and his mates were season ticket holders, so we got to go to quite a few games in that respect. And I moved up to Yorkshire when I was 6 with my mum, so I was never sort of really around and down in sort of Southend and Essex where my dad sort of was living. Right. So I mean, like I said, I got to my first share of games, but not as many as I have been to since I've been to the London Stadium, which is obviously a lot more accessible, and we do have season tickets. So, I mean, I used to have one of the old bowling bricks, which I've just salvaged actually from John Zoda's last week, finally after however many years it's been. But yeah, we had a little Tom and Nick Atherton for me and my dad on the brick there, but never the season ticket, unfortunately, at Upton Park, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, mate, with the distances you've had to do over the years. So out of the games that you did go to the Bowling, this is a bit of a tricky question because I've only recently started asking this of all the guests. I asked this to X the other week, and he was really stumbled on it for a little while. What is your favourite memory of the Bowling?
Do you know, Mike, I've got 2 really. I think the first time I went, it was we played Newcastle when I was 6, and it was a 3-0 win, and I think it was DiCanio, Don Hutchinson, and might have been Sinclair that scored. I think it's 2001. And I think just sort of having those first memories of my dad, and I've got pictures of, us with a few of the players before the game, and just sort of memories and stuff from that first day. And I think that's always stuck with me. And I think as well, for whatever reason, I remember sitting in the chicken run when we beat Man United 2-1 in Carlos Tevez' first game back at West Ham. And I mean, I'm sure it would have been the farewell Bowling game, but unfortunately, I think I was doing the live stream that night with Charlie and Scott, or somebody else anyway. So I didn't get to go to that one. But yeah, I remember beating Ronaldo's Man United 2-1 when he got sent off, and I was in the chicken run with my dad for that game. And I think, yeah, for whatever reason, out of all the games I've seen there, I think that one, for some reason, stuck with me the most. Bit random, but
no, it's everybody's. All my mates that I know and the great guests I've had over the last couple of months now, everybody's favourite memory of the Bowling is always their first.
Yeah,
I mean, even mine. Back in where it wasn't that long after yours, to be honest, mate. When we went the first time, we played Maxfield in the League Cup. That was my first home game, so that would have been my first proper game So that would have been 2006 or 7, one of the two. Loved the atmosphere. It was an awful game to watch. Some great moments from Spectre, and very, very fortunate to see Dean Ashton play before everything happened. But yeah, for me, that was not as enjoyable as last season's Macclesfield Town game in the League Cup. That's for sure. But it was good. I enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed the banter, and then the songs that were being sung, and I was hooked, absolutely hooked from that moment on. But the funny thing is from doing a bit of walking down memory lane over the last couple of days, is that it was 3 years ago yesterday that the first ever Europa qualifier at the London Stadium against NK Domzali, when Feghouli made his debut and made that brilliant goal that he did. He was absolutely superb.
Yeah.
That day.
I remember I had a memory pop up on my timeline because I was at that game. So I had a nice little reminder from my seats from where we were sat for that first game that popped up for that Domzale game. I remember it well.
So where were you sitting for that?
That wasn't in our season ticket seats. That was in behind the goal opposite the away fans. So whatever stand that is, I can't remember. I'm not too good with stand names. But I just remember it being a proper raucous, sizzling atmosphere behind the goal. And it was just, it's a bit different, obviously, because when everybody starts chanting bubbles at that time, it was somebody would start from one side of the ground and then it would all be sort of mixed up. You'd get there eventually. But no, it was still a brilliant game to watch, especially for that first game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that one, I was sitting in at the Trevor Brooking upper because my Bobby Moore lower seat wasn't ready. You can see there's all the scaffolding over it. And Gio, I thought you might be popping up in the chat, mate. Yes, apologies. Yeah, your favourite wasn't the first game. You're absolutely right, mate. That was a bit of a blank on my part, so I'm sure he's going to troll me for that for a good while now. And he's also saying that your vibrator keeps going off. That's a bit of a
that's probably my phone. It's been put in my pocket. I apologise. It's probably Charlie sending me stupid things whilst he's watching.
But since we moved in the London Stadium over the last 3 years now, what has been your favourite moment so far?
It would probably, I think, just all the times that myself, Gio, Charlie, and that have had, some of the other boys, Bez and Tom Down and a few of the others, just not the actual games itself, because obviously it's been quite tough over the last couple of years, but sort of just having the friendship before the games and stuff. And like I said, I remember the West Brom game specifically, and it was 2-2. And Gio and myself, we made our way down to sit behind next to the away fans in behind the goal. And I just remember the both of us absolutely steaming down the front, and Gio at halftime trying to proclaim to everybody that he wasn't drunk, and that he wasn't peshed, and that it was people trying to get him alcohol. No, it's just all that kind of stuff. Just whenever we get to meet up and have which you experienced as well when you came to do, probably not in terms of the same for drinking, but like I said, it doesn't really matter what game you go to, as long as all your mates are around. It's always a good time.
Yeah, I don't remember any. I remember being pissed off quite a few times, but I don't remember actually thinking, oh, that's it, no, I'm done anymore. You never get that, because like you say, when I sit around with my mates, it's exactly the same feeling, and that's 90% of the reason why we go all the time, or we sit down in the pub or watch it at home with our mates, is because we just love all the conversations we have with our friends while we're watching the game, and unfortunately, Gio, I can't believe you're turning down giving money to Isla's fight. That's just ridiculous. So we're going to buy an Admiral sweatshirt, but not anymore, because he's lost his faith in me. Well, sorry, mate, but lots happened over the last couple of months since you've been on. And I know before he says it in the chat as well that I said we would try and get him on the channel before Thursday, because I did say that it would be nice to have him on before the end of the season. The end of the pre-season. Gio, if you're free, mate, you're more than welcome to let me know, and I can send you over the link to join in the conversation if you want. That's fine. But yeah, so as we touched on there, mate, we've got literally just under 2 days before this pre-season properly finishes and the transfer window closes. What are your thoughts on how this pre-season's been?
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing a second ago because I just saw Charlie's question in the in the live chat. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But yeah, I think. Do you know what? Preseason's preseason. I'm not overly bothered about results, and I guess people sort of do take preseason sometimes quite seriously in terms of results and stuff, and imagining how their form will be going into the season. But it's all about the minutes, and to see sort of individual performances of players like Lanzini and Wilshere, I think has been absolutely class in pre-season, and especially with Lanzini sort of returning, I would say, to his former self. Kind of, he just looks a lot more, a lot dangerous, I'd say, in front of goal, and he's obviously creating and getting those chances. But no, I mean, overall, it's been sort of typical pre-season. We win a few, we lose a few, we lose games that we shouldn't have lost. And won games comfortably, a few goals, which is always nice to see. But maybe conceded a few too many to teams that I thought that we wouldn't concede to. But no, I mean, in terms of pre-season, there's no major injuries, which is the main thing. I remember that Cresswell injury a few years ago to his knee, and things like that. So coming out unscathed and obviously adding to our squad, I think, overall we have to be kind of excited going into the season after, I would say, pretty much what would be a successful pre-season.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've had a good chance to see what our new boys can do in those couple of games. Well, I've only been able to see them once properly before Gio says anything, because we all know what happened to me at the Fulham away game. But yeah, it was. I mean, as I said to Nicky when I was talking to him after the game on Saturday, it's a glorified training session. What pre-season games are. It was very, very difficult to see because apparently for the first half, because obviously these ends were switched, that Haller set up their actual first goal, because apparently it was pretty much a back pass that went into the back of the net, which I didn't know about until watching the other day. But in general, yeah, I'm very, very happy pre-season is, because I agree with you 100%, mate. It's more about fitness, and with the exception of Fabianski and possibly still Noble, we've gone pretty much unscathed. It was good to see that Reed's returned to full training this week, because apparently he's been under medical training for the last few weeks. So, fingers crossed he'll get some minutes with it. Now, obviously, talking about that, the 18-year-old Gonçalo Cardoso, I think he pronounced that, signed today on a 5-year contract from Boa Vista Porto, for basically what I'm seeing, as most of us can see, is around about €3 million. I mean, do you know anything about this guy?
Absolutely nothing, other than that I know he's got a little small squiggly bit under his C, so it might be Gonçalo Cardoso. I'm only saying that just because Gio knows I love to pronounce the name right. But yeah, I mean, I'd read that he was sort of highly touted, and that Inter Milan and a few other clubs were interested in him in last summer, and skipper of the under-19s in Portugal. So if it's one of the sort of players that Hugelos and Pellegrini's identified, then for as cheap as it is, and sort of potentially if he can pan out to what some believe he might be able to pan out into, then obviously it's a fantastic bit of business for us. Yeah,
I mean, for those who know very little about it, because this only really popped up a week or so ago, from the information that I found out, this is the first time he's actually had a fee on his head, because all his previous movements have all been on for frees itself. But he's a left-footed centre-back who can play both left and right centre-back positions. Like you say, he made his debut on the 14th of October last year for the under-19s Portugal squad. He's made 2 appearances, nine appearances and 2 goals, 4 friendlies and a goal, and 5 in the under-19 Euros and a goal as well. So far, has had 11 appearances and 3 goals for Boa Vista in La Liga, Liga Nos, I should say. So it looks like he's going to be potential for the future. It's great to see the fact that he was touted to be the number 3 as centre-back choice. I mean, but it'd be interesting to see if he's actually what happens on Saturday. I mean, would you risk putting him in on the bench for the first game?
I mean, I think when I read a thing about the squad earlier as JP disappears.
Battery's running out.
I sort of saw the squad names and list, and there are going to be probably a few players this season that are going to miss out on the bench that probably necessarily thought they would have started, and I think that just comes with, if you improve your squad, that's the kind of thing you have to expect. So for me, no, because if he has some attacking options and one centre back, then I imagine that's probably going to be Ogbonna. So, and obviously it would probably be a bit difficult to sort of throw a kid in that if somebody got injured, you have to stick him in at the deep end against the likes of Man City. It would be tough on him. So, no, I'd give him a few weeks, see how he does. Maybe a run out in the League Cup when that comes about. Probably in the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Wally Wells has asked a question which you've literally just answered, because there's a few seconds delay between the chat and the conversation that we're having. So probably by the time that Wally hears what you've just said, that's around about the time when he actually asked the question. Right. But just in terms of bench warmers, obviously we saw that Adrian signed for Liverpool yesterday. And replaces the former now Sunderland #1 as well, who went over to, who did he go over to? Oh, I don't know, it matter anyway.
Bruges or something like
that. Bruges, exactly. That's exactly it. And X also came out to say that the reason why his contract wasn't renewed is because they didn't want to pay him those wages to basically be a backup, which I understand. I mean, for me, I think it's a great move for Adrian. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, he gets the chance to fight for a Premier League title, which obviously he's not going to do if he's with us. And he gets to potentially play in the Champions League if they rotate in the group stages. So, look, it's a brilliant move for him. You can't obviously, deny that it's a massive step up. But again, I think the whole reason he left was, like you said, to get game time. So I thought it would be somewhere back in Spain for a Betis or an Espanyol or something. Not a top tier club, but sort of middle of the park club, because he's good enough now and again. He just has moments of madness, which I guess is probably the best way to describe him. But no, I'm obviously pleased for him, and I always loved him for his penalty against Everton. I guess is the main sort of reason, and I'm sure Liverpool fans will love him for that. But no, I'm chuffed for the guy that he gets to sort of challenge for a bit of silverware this time.
Definitely. I mean, it's been long reported for a good few years that he's been trying to get back into he's trying to get into the Spain squad, and he got in there. He got in there for the qualifiers just gone, but he hasn't really cemented in place. And what better way to prove that he can do it on that level is to be the second goalkeeper for, like you say, for the rotations of the Champions League, and get himself out in front of some of the best players in Europe and challenge for the Spain squad that way. Talking of that as well, obviously we talked about. We've released, pretty much as good as released, Reece Oxford, who went over to Augsburg for 2.1 million. Wasted talent like Ravel Morrison.
Yeah, he's he built his career off of one game, and then unfortunately his agent sort of stepped in and was after the money. And if I don't blame the kid, he wants a future or whatever, but I just think he wanted it all a bit too young. And I think, he clearly had that talent, but I was a bit sort of suspect after the Everton game where he was bullied against Lukaku. I think it was a game we won 3-2, and he was dragged at half time. So I was kind of always a bit suspect because he's quite lanky and quite tall, and he was really sort of bullied about by a few centre halves. So it was clear that he had a lot of work to do, and I was quite sort of surprised that he had the demands of what he did just off of one game. And it would have been nice to see him, go and put the work in like Declan Rice did, and get better. And even when he was yanked with Liverpool at half time, look what he did. He came back stronger and finished the season off as probably our best player. So and he clearly has talent. Hopefully, it all goes sort of well for him there. But was he ever as good as people thought he was? Maybe not. Who knows? But I definitely thought that there might have been a place for him this year. Maybe as a defensive midfielder kind of thing or a backup. But if Pellegrini, wants to get rid of him, then that's fair enough. Of course, I trust in his judgment. He's the manager at the end of the day. I'm a uni student, so he knows something that potentially I don't. And best of luck to him at Augsburg. But if he didn't want to be here and he wanted to play first team football elsewhere, then I've got no issues with him going and doing that.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you there, mate. I mean, his second game was, if I remember correctly, was Leicester at home. And again, exactly the same thing. Vardy absolutely rung rings around him, and he had a really, really poor first half, and he was a second half substitute as a result of it. But it happens. I mean, to a degree, you're right with how people remember him, because they will, like you remember Adrian for the Everton game, as we all do. If you ask somebody in the West Ham circle, Reece Oxford, they'll automatically think of that Arsenal debut, and that's what's completely associated it to him. And people, sorry, go on, mate.
No, I was just going to say, because I remember seeing him up at Wigan a few years ago when we were in the FA Cup when they knocked us out, and he came on at half time over there, I think, and he was just woeful. He just looked a shell of his former self, and that might be because of the fact that Bilic, refused to play him for a while or whatever, and whatnot. But even then, after he'd had some time over at Mönchengladbach, I thought he was going to be sort of a changed man, and it was his time to prove himself again that he deserved a place. But even against Wigan, he just looked so off the pace. It was unreal, and just a shell of what we saw in that first game against Arsenal. I think it's just funny, obviously, how it panned out. Declan Rice being the one that sort of came under the radar and played in his position and has absolutely dominated to the point he has. So, yeah,
I mean, it's the funny thing. One of the reasons why I want to talk about that, and you've mentioned the Rice is set me up perfectly for one of the things that I want to get your opinions on, because it's not technically a transfer window thought really, but bearing in mind this time last year, everyone was panicking's not the right word, but we're very apprehensive for Declan Rice to sign his improved deal, which took quite a few months, and that obviously ended up getting done on a better wages that he quite rightly deserves for, bearing in mind all footballers are overpaid really, but for someone who showed his chops, had more than enough potential to prove, to cement himself with the best of the players that were around us, and say, well, if Feghouli was on that amount of money, why aren't I on the relatively same sort of money? But because obviously now the conversation seems to be turning around slightly to Lanzini with that problem with his contract. I mean, what are your thoughts of this situation?
I mean, look, I think Declan Rice, I loved the way he went about it, because I thought, I know it took a while, but it almost felt like after that such a long time, it was deserving at that point. And sometimes you can, offer it too early and then you sort of see the dip in form. But actually, he sort of made the statement last year and improved and got better and better each week that we saw him. And when he got that deal, it was fully deserved. And I guess Lanzini, I saw a lot of people giving a lot of hate last year, and I know myself and Gio and Gonzo, Charlie, whoever, we discussed it in length on the channel last year in match reviews. But for me, coming back on such a serious knee injury, it's always going to take time to get back into that mould of playing how he used to and get up to the speed of the Premier League. So, when he came back, it was almost like his pre-season for the first, few games. And I feel like he does need a new contract. I feel as if he needs to wait, for the first 6 months of the season and see how he improves. I think we owe it to him, because I think he was one of our best players, at Upton Park, along with Payet and in the first season at London Stadium and whatnot. And he's still only young as well, don't forget. And he clearly has, the talent to hopefully be a good creative midfielder in the Premier League. So, whereas I can understand he wants to get paid now, I'd wait a few months first to see how he performs. But if it's anything to go by pre-season and he looks like he's back to that original player, then I have no issues with handing him a much improved contract. I think he deserves it fully. Yeah,
I agree. My instinct on this is that with everything that's been going on around it, this whole legal matter that was reported a few months ago, my instinct on this is that Pellegrini has said to him, you want a new contract, you go out and prove to me you can do it. And so far in pre-season, he has been. I mean, not just because he's scored in the last 3 pre-season games on the trot, but his movement on Saturday was brilliant. His movement, from what I saw, the highlights last Saturday, was very, very, very good. Every time I've seen him, he's looked like a better player. You're absolutely right. This is an extended pre-season for him, along with obviously Wilshere as well. Those two have really, really impressed me so far this in the pre-season.
I was going to say, because I think he thrives better when he has those attacking threats around him. Like I said, when he had his mate in tandem with Payet, I thought he was brilliant, and I think it seems already that he's kind of got that relationship with Fornals, and if Fornals can be half the player that we were expecting him to be, I think those two can work in tandem together absolutely fine. And I think that hopefully you might see the best out of Lanzini sort of with those other creative players that we now sort of possess, and especially if he's feeding somebody like Sebastian Haller, it looks like it'll be a joy to watch for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's one thing I really, really can't wait for, is the fact that, exactly as you just touched there, Tom, those three linking up together, support, because at the end of the day, they've all got assists in them. Alera's proved that. What was it with the game Wednesday week where he had two assists and a goal. He assisted Wilshire's goal on Saturday. I can't wait to see how he gets on in the Premier League properly. I really can't. I'm absolutely buzzing around that. One of the other things that another player that we're actually linked to at the moment, which X has been giving us almost hourly updates on what's going on with him, is the 22-year-old right-footed Basel striker. Now, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Albion Ajeti. Now, there's also interest in him with West Brom and Brentford, which apparently both teams have submitted a bid that Basel have actually accepted, from what I'm reading. But we are still in conversation with him and his agent, because at the end of the day, as we all know, this has been going back since the mid to late 60s, that a player is always available until he signs on the dotted line. Now, that over the last few years, there's been a bit more of a gentleman's agreement between clubs where they won't poach him when he's had his medical. But we tried that with Gomez, apparently, and that didn't work. I take it this is a player that, again, you don't, like most of you, don't really know too much about.
Not a clue. Like I said, when I read it today, it was, I was sat down at lunch having a slice of pizza, and sort of checked my phone, and I was a bit like, not a clue. So, I think it more sort of raises questions, I guess, what happens to Chicharito in this scenario, and if, whether he stays or goes, is he going to stay or not? Who knows? But again, if it's one of these sort of young, highly rated youngsters that Huselos and Pellegrini like the look of, then by all means, and it's a cheap price, I don't mind, because obviously Basel do play in the Champions League, as I saw someone put in the chat there. They do play in the Champions League, so clearly
they qualified tomorrow night.
Yeah, so it's. He might be good enough. But I guess it's one of those that you sort of wait and have to see. Will he get much game time with us? No. Will he be a backup striker? Yes. And he'd obviously have to make his chance count when he played. But I feel like if we did sign him, I think that might be the end of Chicharito at West Ham. Methinks.
I disagree with that, Charlie. I know where you're going with it, but I would rather have three strikers to rely on the season rather than just two.
Oh, I'd rather have the three strikers, but I'm more on the lines of, is Chicharito going to be want to, and I'm not saying this guy would be backup striker straight away, but would he still want the opportunity to have to fight amongst another striker to potentially be the backup? Because this guy may outperform Chicharito. Who knows? The training, he might look really, really good. And I just don't see Chicharito hanging around if he believes that he's third option, or he's in the conversation for that. I feel like he would potentially want to move elsewhere.
Exactly, but to be honest with you, mate, he looks like he's got the Charlie Walsh seal of approval, because as you'll see from the comment here, it says he's well good in PES. So, Charlie, if that's the case, then I'm sure we're going to land a cracker. Pro Evo, that was a great one there, Charlie. I really, really do like that.
You can't understand. I've tried to switch him over to FIFA for years, but he just won't have it. He just will not have it. He's playing the journey on FIFA at the minute, but it's just, he's a Pez man at heart, and it's just strange. But you let Charlie do what Charlie does. never question it.
Force of nature, any of that, man. So there's also talk about us loaning out a few academy players hopefully in the next couple of days as well. West Brom have been linked with a couple of them. More specifically, there's Ajibola Elise, I think you pronounced that. Apparently, he looks to be a very, very good up-and-coming player as well. But what I reckon personally is going to be a stumbling block in this situation is that the club want 100% of the loanees' wages being paid for. I mean, I don't remember ever hearing recently that's ever happened. I mean, do you reckon that's a bit uncalled for, or do you reckon that's a good shout by the club?
I mean, I guess every little helps, doesn't it, to all sort of paying wages and stuff. I mean, he can't obviously be on too much anyway, so I don't feel like it would be too much of an issue for West Brom unless they can't necessarily pay for it. I kind of expected that, though. I did think that one or two of our youngsters that Slaven Bilic have kind of known the last couple of years would try and come and poach on loan deals. So, to be honest with you, I don't really care. Whatever Slav wants, you can give him, because I still love him as a manager. So if he doesn't want to pay the wages, I don't care. Just give him to Bilic. It's for him. If it was for anybody else, I want the 100% wage fee. But no, because it's Bilic, just help him out, make it easier for him.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, Matt. I mean, because at the end of the day, I feel exactly the same with him. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do over at West when he goes over to West Brom. Really looking forward to seeing his capabilities there. I still think personally there is a Premier League manager in there yet, but he's yet to find the right avenue to express that. I mean, don't get me wrong, he wasn't really supported with us, but I just I've still got a bit of quite a lot of love for the guy. I mean, because what better way to do it than to get into a club like West Brom, get rid of the Tony Pulis smell, and then just build a better football team again. Because obviously this is their second season down in the Championship now. So fingers crossed. You never know. We could see him at the end of next season in the playoffs. It'd be great. But you never know. Now, we talked about Declan Rice a little bit earlier, but did you see or hear this BBC Sport interview that he gave the other day?
No, I didn't. This will be news to me.
This has got a few people talking, because apparently he said that aiming for Europe and not achieving it is a failure, which has provoked a lot of people to think that he's going to be going at the end of next season. Before I give him what I feel his words mean, what do you reckon he refers to by that?
I think it's true. I think it's we had all these aspirations and hopes before we moved to the London Stadium, and sort of evolving as a club to the point now where we've got probably the best attacking threat we've ever had in this sort of era of the Premier League in terms of quality of players. So I would be saying, if we didn't qualify for Europe, or get close, I think it's the truth. And I don't take those comments as him wanting to move elsewhere. I take it as a player who clearly wants to be successful at West Ham and has aspirations of doing that. And he's always done right by us when it was the talk of Man United, City, and clubs like that. You never heard of it once from him. He's still plays with a smile on his face like he's the first time he's played football, and I think he just goes about everything the right way. So for me, no, I just think he's being very honest, and I don't have an issue with those kind of comments. I think it's the truth. I think it would be a failure if we weren't sort of around that top 8 come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if we show that we're trying to get it, but we don't finish 7th or 8th, then to me that it's not a failure in that regards, because we've tried to show that attacking intent to get there. Because as we all know, that there's about 12 teams trying to get into the top 8. So it's mathematical. If we could do it from a footballing perspective, definitely. But yes, I just kind of think I agree with it, is the fact that we need to be. He's shown that he wants to be successful, and that he's literally showing. Because it's great to hear the fact that he wants to give his all yet again on the pitch, because he's. I just there's not enough adjectives in the world to describe my feelings for that boy at the moment. It's just I absolutely love him. Of course, going back to what you were saying about when we were critical of Lanzini last season, when you guys do the post-match reviews pretty much straight after the game, your emotions are raw, and you're saying what you think. I mean, but at the end of the day, we reserve the right to do it, and likewise does Rice, just to give your opinion, whether it's true or not, or so if everybody agrees with it or not. I mean, because your opinion can change. You can sit on there and say for example, Snodgrass has an absolute stinker on Saturday, and you sit there and talk about that and how disappointed you are with him, and then you can watch the highlights back on Match of the Day or Goals on Sunday and go, actually, no, I think you did all right. Do you know what I mean? It's I reckon that's just it was him saying it in the moment more than anything else. So with I know we kind of touched on this earlier as well, Tom, but how do you feel that the transfer window's gone as a whole for this coming season?
I think it's been really successful. I think obviously, we identified for the last, so jokingly said we've identified the need for a striker for the last 10 years probably. So I think we finally put our money where our mouth is and signed an absolutely unbelievable player. I think he's got potential to be world class. He's still young. His strength is the main thing. Obviously, coming into the Premier League, it's a strong league. But my word, does he look sort of a big lad in that respect? But he's also great with his feet, as you saw from that assist at the weekend. The movement to sort of bring the ball back and go and turn his man. It was very nice to see. And I think that's the main thing, is that he's always sort of got his head up as a striker. And he's always looking for that final pass, because if that's Arnautovic in that position, you just know he's going to try and bury it. Or Antonio, it's going 20 feet over the bar. So, to have a striker that's as aware as he is, I think is brilliant for us. I think Fornals was a class bit of business to get, such a good talented player in, and then have the performance he did at the under 21s championship. I think is amazing, because obviously his price would have doubled if we'd have signed him after that championships. And I think I would have loved for us to sort of sign maybe a left back or a permanent right back, but I've been quite impressed with Ben Johnson's performances in pre-season, so that doesn't really bother me too much. I guess Zabaleta will be phased out towards the end of the season and Johnson will come through. I think the only issue for me was left back, and Masuaku and Cresswell, and I guess we would probably say is our weakest link in that team. So as a whole, for me, the transfer window, I think, is gone relatively smoothly. And it would have been a bit sort of worrying if we'd have got to, this time this week and we still haven't signed a striker or something like that. So, I think we've got the makings of a really good squad entering the season for the first time in a long time, to be able to say that. I think we said that last year, but I think we've gone one step better this summer to bring in the players and the talent that we have.
Yeah, I mean, because from when you and I last talked, what was it, 6-7 weeks ago now? That was pretty much the conversation that we were having when my question came up about Masuaku or Creswell, or to keep Masuaku or Creswell. I want to see both go, but I want to see both stay at the same point. Because they've both got their pluses and their minuses. Masuaku, I absolutely loved seeing his interview that he gave to the website when he signed his contract extension. Noble's reaction to it was brilliant. Did you see the video of it?
Yeah, I did.
It was saying well, you're going to be 34.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Really, really cracked me up, that. But for Masuaku was very, very honest, and he gained quite a few points out of that, where he said, he's had a tough time over the last 3 to 4 years. He's not played to the best that he can do, but he wants to improve and play more football. And it's brilliant. I want to see that. I mean, there is probably a good chance that was some of the PR guys saying that at the same point, because so as far as social media is concerned, there's a lot of hatred out for Creswell and Masuaku. Some of it justified, but the majority of it absolutely not in any shape or form. But yeah, that's
the thing though with Masuaku, is that he's so good going forward. It's just he just needs to focus on that defensive side of his game, and I hope if he can nail that, mate, he's one of the potentially best fullbacks in the league, because he offers such a dangerous threat going forward, and he is so skillful. I remember that game against Chelsea the other year; he was dribbling around everybody like he was Messi. So clearly he has it. He has the talent, and he's still young as well. He's another young player that can develop. It's just he has to get that defensive side of his game nailed. Otherwise, it's just time and time again he'll get caught going forward.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, that's one of the things that I really loved about him last season. His defensive mind shape was much, much better than it was in the season before. Guys, put your questions down in the comment section, so we got some questions to ask Tom, because to be honest, I'm running out. But I know there's a few guys. I know a few of you are going to ask some questions. And Charlie, keep them simple. Nothing too racy, mate. But you can put them in if you want. But I'll.
Mate, that Arsenal story. That's a great story. That really is a fun one.
All right. Well, you dug yourself into that hole, mate. Go on.
That's fine.
Give us the update on that one.
That's fine. No, I think it was when we lost 5-1 or something when Sanchez scored a hat trick. As per usual, I'd had a bit too much to drink.
That was at Christmas time, wasn't it?
Yeah, pitch black. And I remember going. I was sat with. I can't remember. I was sat with. I must have been sat with Charlie somewhere in the ground, and I just stood up. I think before half time, and was just like, right, I'm going over there, and I'm going to sort them out. And for whatever reason, it was never going to happen. I'm not a fighting type anyway. But I went and sat upstairs, and funnily enough, I stood in the same row as Baz Cox has stood, and his mates, and just quite by chance really. And I sort of leaned over and I was going, "Oh, you effing this, that, and the other. You're shit. You're this. You're that." The steward just came up to me and was just like, "Look, mate, if you carry on, I'm just going to have to chuck you out." I was like, "Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry," and went back and sat in my original seat, I think with Charlie or something. I can't remember how it happened. I was too drunk to remember, but yeah, tried taking on the entire Arsenal away section, which was great fun. But again, for the reasons why I did it, I can't tell you. But yeah, I'm sure Charlie has many good stories of me doing that when I've had a drink, as I'm sure he does for most of us at Hammers Chat, because he's the only one that doesn't drink. So
apparently. Yeah, so he's put his little comments in and said we were in the top tier. Tom left half an hour in max. I couldn't find him for hours. Well, I'm guessing he means hours because I don't know what Horus means. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, one thing I do want to, again, we touched on it earlier, Tom. What are your hopes and expectations for this coming season?
Oh, I think this has to be the season. I think this has to be the defining season. Pellegrini's come out and said he wants a mammoth points total. So, the expectation's already been set for us. And I think without European football, I think it's a failure. I think it really is. I think we've got a decent enough squad depth now, and we've got the attacking intent to really be putting away most of the teams in the bottom half. We can't be doing like we did last season and going to Brighton and losing 1-0. Games like that, Norwich and Sheffield United, we have to take points from our bread and butter games this season and show up a few times like we did against the top boys, like Liverpool and that. So I mean, I'd obviously love to see us go for a cup as well. I think doing well in the FA Cup is always going to be a main thing for us. But for me, like I said, if we're not challenging, and it's going to be tougher this year because Wolves have improved with Catrone and Vallejo and players like that. Everton have improved. If they do sign Zaha, they've just got Moise Keane, who I think is an unbelievable signing for them. All the teams are getting stronger. I mean, I was like, while we've been chatting, my phone popped off, and apparently Tottenham have had a bid accepted for
Everton.
Paulo Dybala.
All right. Oh, wow.
Dimarzio was reporting. So, every club is getting better, really, in and around us. So I think the main thing we do have is Pellegrini. And I think if he can unlock some of the potential in these players, then, we really have to be pushing for that top half. I'm hoping 8th or 7th. So, and if anybody can clear up the trophies like Man City, so the position keeps dropping down a bit further, so we can get in sort of on a whim, or we just be really good this season and get in through fair play. I don't care.
Well, I kind of think we're not going to get in that way, mate. I was surprised we got in through it with Allardyce.
So was I. That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, so you kind of touched on my next question there, Tom. What do you feel that Pellegrini needs to do to improve results over last season?
I think for me, the main thing was sometimes, I guess, at the start of the season, he was that defensive line where he was trying to get players to play the high line and play offside, got us in trouble a few times. And I think if he can I think the defence is the main thing. I think tactically he's very astute, like I said, going forward. Like I said, he's got a plethora of players now in which he can rely on to be a game winner. And I think that will sort of take care of itself. And I think obviously having Wilshere there for a full season will help him. Obviously, Noble played. I'm not sure how many games Noble will get this year, to be honest, especially if sort of everybody stays fit. But I think, like I said, the main concern is the 4 men in front of Fabianski, specifically the left back and right back spots. And I just think that, against the top teams, that's how we are going to struggle this year. So, I mean, hopefully the guys have been working hard in pre-season and we can see an impressive, or more impressive back line. But I think we shipped far too many goals last year. And I think if he can get that down and people starting to play well, then, I think it's always going to be good luck for us going into the season.
Yeah. Talking of which, what would you, knowing the information that we know now, what would your starting 11 be for Saturday?
It would be Fabianski if he's fit. If he's not, Roberto, I guess. But although he's looked very suspect, he's a bit more flappy-handed than Fabianski. Not Fabianski. Adrian was. Must be the Spanish flair in those guys as goalkeepers. They do some strange things.
That's a very good point, mate. Actually, yeah.
I'd go with Fredericks. He may even start Johnson. He did that last year against City, so why not? Potentially Fredericks, Diop, Balbuena, Masuaku. Although apparently because he was a bit more, he's quite tired when he got back from the African Cup of Nations, it might be Cresswell.
It could be Johnson because he was at the left back.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was. It's a good shout. But then
he's also been very impressive as well this pre-season, Johnson.
Yeah, he has. But I'd have Rice Holding, and I'd have Wilshere and Lanzini or Fornals, because I think Fornals is probably, I would say, he's slower than Lanzini. He could probably play a centre midfield, like a creative centre midfield role, maybe. And then I'd have Anderson on one side. I'd have Allaire through the middle, and I'd be tempted to play Lanzini on the right, potentially. I don't think Yarmolenko's been up to it pre-season, but again, quite a devastating injury, the Achilles injury. It's always a tough one to be the same player when you come back from that. So I'd be tempted to play Lanzini out wide. Obviously, I know a lot of people want to see Antonio, but I, myself, and a few others, knowing no names, Charlie Walsh, have an issue with Antonio, which a lot of people don't like. But I just don't like him as a player. Maybe I'm not getting into it because I'll just get in trouble with everybody. But no, it's
no, mate. You're going to get in trouble because I'm going to ask you, because I know why Charlie doesn't like him. But what's your issue with him?
I just think he's not crap because he scores goals and he creates assists, and you would say, look, he's doing what he's set out to do. I just think it just annoys me because there is a few players that I think technically that are better than him. And I'm not saying he's very strong, he's very bulky, he can beat a man. But to beat a man, he just knocks the ball 20 yards in front and just runs past. And I just don't think he has the ability to be like a Yarmolenko, where he can chop or cut inside in from the right hand side and have a shot with his left. Or, I mean, he's fantastic in the air. Like I said, that's his main asset. I think, along with his pace, is the fact he's brilliant in the air. It's just, I think his technical ability, he's one of the worst at the club. It just frustrates me more times than anything. And like I said, there's times when he's just put the ball 50 foot over the bar, and you're screaming, "Don't shoot, don't shoot!" And it just flies up and away. So yeah, I think like I said, I like the guy. I don't hate him, but I just think that technically there are a few better players for him than him in his position. If he came off the bench and played minutes, I don't have an issue with that. But I don't think he should be starting. Put it that way.
Now, as West Ham supporters and fans in general, we like to change song lyrics. Do you reckon we should change the song that we used to sing for his name's just popped out of my head now. Our striker went to Fulham a few years back. Bobby Zamora. Do you reckon we should change the Bobby Zamora song for Antonio?
I mean,
when you sit in Rosette and the ball hits your head, that's Antonio.
doesn't have the same ring to it, but no,
I know it doesn't, but it's pretty relevant though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Okay. To be fair, I think I'd probably be myself and Charlie would be the only two people singing it, but
well, not according to the group chat, mate, because Mark JPWHUTV is saying don't mention Antonio. So whereas Kent Hammers is singing his name, so it's Charlie. We know you don't like him, so don't try that. But yeah, so there was a great question that Mark asked earlier. Where are we? Where's the question? Actually, before we go on to that, I'll do Ben Davis's questions. He's asked an absolute cracker. So, do you agree Gonzo is the best presenter on Hammers Chat apart from yourself? Well,
all right. Well, he's thrown me under the bus with that one. Cheers for that, Ben. Well, I'll say this. Gio is, for somebody that never sort of did this, that just started it up as on a whim as a fan thing on YouTube. Like I said, it was a forum channel before. I don't want to blow his trumpet too much. In fact, that sounds a bit wrong. I don't want to blow his trumpet at all. But I
won't say what I was thinking. Go on.
No. But his interview with Matt Jarvis the other day was one of the best I think I've seen him done. And I'm not saying that Gonzo couldn't do that, because again, Gonzo's presented a few things in the past and he has his own shows and stuff. But I think Gio has become symbolic, I guess, with West Ham YouTube, and people tuning to listen to him because he is a great, asker of questions. Like I said, the 24-hour live stream, I know he put Sean under the microscope and stuff like that, but it was all friendly, just a debate, really. He has his opinion, but he comes across in the right way. He's not too over aggressive or shouty or stuff like that. So I think he's, as far as presenters go, he's I think the best person on YouTube for that sort of stuff. And with a Scottish accent, he mixes in quite well with people like us from from down south. So like I said, no, and Gonzo in his own right is very good at what he does, and he's obviously put in an awful lot of time and money and stuff for Hammers Chat. So but I might have to give Gio the nod on that one. And I know Charlie and myself have done a little bit of presenting now and again. I think my first ever live thing I did when I first met Charlie, I think it might have been the first, was outside of Upton Park. And Charlie had a feather duster microphone. You can probably find it on YouTube if there's a few people watching. It was a Mark Noble's testimonial. There was myself, Jason, who hasn't been on for the last year, but he used to be on, and Tom Down. I was sat with a feather duster microphone, and I remember going, it was very wet and what was it? A wet and windy day, and I was just remember shaking. It was raining. It was absolutely horrible, and I hated sort of present. I was wearing some horrible check shirt that you just think you'd never wear that to football and stuff like that. I was just, it was the first time doing it, really. It was kind of like, that's where it all began, this whole sports journalism thing for me. It went hand in hand, really. So I'm not saying Gio's got his, I'm not running and getting close to Gio by any stretch of the imagination, but I'd like to think I can sort of do that sort of stuff myself. But yeah, like I said, I think Gio is up and away there as probably the best presenter for West Ham stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, 2 beers for Tom, Gio's saying. There's a great question that Mark's asked here, which is, do you think we'll have a full London stadium this season? Too many empty seats last year.
I think it'll be much of the same. I think, when we signed a few of those players that we did last year, I thought it would have been a lot more full than it was. But obviously there are a few spare seats on match day, even though we sell out the crowd. I think obviously for the London derbies and top 6, I think it will be sold out. But I don't think that it will be full for games, like the Norwich and Brighton and stuff like that. And it's the same as any ground, I guess. They're always going to be empty seats. It's just a shame that you can always see ours on TV because they're just standing out in blazing white, seats that look so obvious that there aren't people sat there. So, it's a decent enough atmosphere as it is anyway. So, not as obviously as good as as it used to be with Upton Park, but I think it will be sort of much of what we saw last year, I guess.
Yeah, you're right, mate. Because I think there's a big section up there in the Trevor Booking Upper, which are the I think Newham Council initiative tickets that don't ever seem to get.
The Thompson had seats as well, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah.
Package deals that never seem to get used as well. So there's a few areas of the ground that obviously that aren't used for whatever reason, which is a shame, really, that it's kind of that corporate. Oh, speaking of corporate, maybe I get it to go this year, maybe I don't. Who knows? But yeah, it's a shame, really, because I thought it would. I think it will be more if they expand again, so it's upwards of 66,000 or whatever they hope it to be. Then hopefully it will look a bit more full again, I guess. But I know people, like when we were doing the stuff. A few weeks ago, Jamie, who was absolutely sloshed after a while, was saying that he wouldn't go back to the ground whilst the seats were the way they were. So there are people that have season tickets but stay away. They just like to have the season ticket so they can accrue points for away games, which is fair enough. That's their decision. So yeah.
Just touching on that, mate, because I was about to ask you Charlie's question, but I'll ask that in a second. With the double points initiative scheme that the club are running for the cup games, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know that was a thing. I do West Ham YouTube and all that sort of stuff. I don't keep myself in the loop with anything like that, really. And like I said, if you could tell me the scheme in a second, then that would be great. But like I said, in terms of when Gio was doing the interview with the guy from the OSB and stuff like that, that means nothing to me. I just don't pay attention to the political side of things. It really doesn't interest me. So, but no, I didn't know that there was a scheme put in place for cup games.
Well, basically, what they were saying they were doing is basically to get everybody on the pre-order list for the home cup games. Is when you renewed your season ticket, you could set yourself up for the automatic home allocation, which basically, if I remember correctly, it did give you extra points on top of I think it was literally double points on top of buying the ticket. So you'd normally get a point for the ticket, so therefore you got two every home cup game.
Well, I guess in that respect, I guess it's you'll see more people that go to away games maybe will turn up or buy tickets for that. May not even turn up. They'll just do it to get the double points. Like I said, I think that's mainly for the away fans that travel up and down the country every week that want, as many points as they possibly can because I think, what was it, the away game we've got in a couple of weeks sold out at like 21 or 22 points or something ridiculous. So yeah,
Watford away.
Yeah. So, it's, I guess, in that respect, it's good for people that want to travel to away games, and maybe for cup games, it might be a bit more full, because it was, like Accrington a few years ago was, pretty much empty, I guess, when we went to extra time with them. So, yeah, I guess it gets people to get into the ground and it gets seats filled, which I guess is what the club want at the end of the day.
And it's just bloody typical that because I put myself in for the ballot for Watford because my points are nowhere near big enough for it. And it was reported earlier, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, one of the two, that there's been a glitch with the ballot. So it's bloody typical. It really is. But the great question from Charlie, once the computer lets me do it. What animal you reckon you could take on in a fight?
Yes. Do you know what? I reckon a giraffe. I reckon that'd be fun. Just like trying to swing up at its neck. I reckon that'd be a right good scrap. That would be, as they'd say up north. That'd be a right good scrap. Yeah, a giraffe. I don't know why, but I just think long-necked beast. Let me take you down. I'll just, I mean, is that or what was it we were doing the other day? We was listening to Crazy Frog, of all things. I don't know why it came on shuffle on my playlist. So maybe I stamp on a frog. I mean, I love animals, but I mean, that would probably be a bit harsh. It seems worse when the animal's smaller than you. But I guess if I wanted to feel like a bigger man, then I'd stamp on a frog, specifically Crazy Frog for being such an annoying twat.
Yeah. Growing up as a teenager when that was all the rage, mate. Yes, agreed, definitely. Ben Davis has asked quite a good question here. What are you a fan of VAR? Now, technically, it hasn't been used to its full potential yet, but for the theory behind it for the Premier League.
Now, I've had many an argument with my dad, of all people, about this discussion, because he's of the mindset that he hates VAR. It will slow the game down, and I guess he's from an older generation, so he's not gonna like it. I guess it has its potentials, but sometimes I guess, like you said, it could have its flaws as well. But for me personally, I've wanted to see VAR for a long time. I think it hopefully will eradicate stupid decisions that we've seen. Even back as far as I remember in when the year we signed Payet in 2014 or whatever it was, when we were away at Chelsea and Loftus-Cheek was through on goal and somebody clattered him from behind, but it was outside the box. And it's just like little decisions like that. And the red card I think that Kouyaté got in one of the games, for us, we could have got European football that season. We wouldn't have had to go through the playoffs. Might have been group stages or something like that. So I think hopefully it will eradicate decisions like that. But at the same time, I'm just wondering how the top 6 clubs are going to, find a way to sort of get past VAR and, have decisions still go in their favour. So I think there will be more points given out, especially, I won't say given out, but I think that a lot of clubs will probably get a few more points this season because they won't have stupid decisions going against them. A la Cardiff last year when Aspirations scored when he was offside. A result like that could have completely changed their season. So, I think in the long run, I think it might take a year or two, but I think when everybody's up to speed of it, I think it'll be brilliant. But I don't think they should be using it in the cup competitions if certain grounds can have it and some can't, because I believe it's quite an unfair advantage. I think last year it was in the semi-finals. Was it Swansea had the VAR, but somebody else didn't, or something like that? So I think if you're it has to be a level playing field. Every ground that has it have to use it or don't use it at all, kind of thing. So, yeah, for me, I think the sooner it's implemented in English football, I think for the better. Put it that way.
Definitely, mate. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing if it works because I like the technology. I think it's good. It's just the people in charge of it that, like you say, is it has to be balanced 100%. Now, Gio's asked a question that I reckon he's asked it because he doesn't think I'm going to put it up, but I am. So let's look. Right. So ask him about Ben Dover, his stepdad. And ask him for his thoughts on Club London. So go on, answer both questions, mate. This will be entertaining.
First of all, Gio, shut up. I don't have a stepdad. My mum has been dutifully single for the last 16 years, 17 years after she split up with my dad to help raise me. So shove that one up your backside. Bend
over, mate. Bend over.
Yeah, and secondly, again, Club London and corporate, mate, I wouldn't know a thing about it because, just maybe one time someone, specifically naming no names, didn't invite me to corporate, but that's fine. That's fine. You guys enjoyed it. That's cool. Maybe I might be able to report back at the end of the season if I manage to get into corporate to tell you what it's like. But yeah, until then, I can only imagine that the beer tasted extra beery and more hoppy, and the food was absolutely lovely. So yeah, I'm sure Club London is a great experience.
One final question for me. There's a question from a mate of mine who lives over in Bangkok.
Oh, blimey!
He has a go at me if I don't ask any of these guests this. But one question I meant to ask you earlier, which completely slipped my mind until a couple of minutes ago. Well, basically, when you were talking about your wannabe ruck with a giraffe, being a West Ham fan, living in and around Leeds, how does that go down?
Do you know, it was better in Sheffield, I think, because where I used to live in my student digs in Sheffield, it was really rough, and where I lived was behind us was Bramall Lane. So I mean, I was literally a 10-second walk from Bramall Lane. And I remember when Spurs played Sheffield United in the cup, I walked to work with my scarf on because I think it was in the winter time, and it will be specifically, if we get a little spin up there, it was that scarf there. So I walked out to work and then was threatened by many people on my way by not just Spurs fans but Sheffield United fans, about my scarf. So I had to quickly tuck it underneath. So I mean, sometimes it can be tough, I guess, because what was it? It's all dirty Leeds up here, and everybody's Leeds through and through. And I live here with two other mates, and one of them's a Man United fan and one's a Leeds fan. So I get that sort of talk all the time. But yeah, like I said, I don't have any issues with living in Leeds and being a West Ham fan. I've met a few of them on their time. Everybody, if I go out in I'm not the kind of person that ever wears shirts out in public, or these are usually just kick around tops or inside. But if I'm out and about, I'm working at the pubs or just out for a drink or whatnot, I've had many a good conversation. And, I think Leeds fans are kind of similar to us in terms of, a great club with great history, with the likes of Bobby Moore and Billy Bremner and stuff like that. So, they've always been really kind of quite nice and genuine. So I think Leeds is one of probably the best places I have lived. I've lived in a few places, and I think Leeds is it's a great footballing city, and it's brilliant fans. But not when they're mentioning Leeds Rhinos, because that can get quite boring after a while. They love their rugby league up here, you know, and you don't dare say anything about the game of rugby league and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's nice actually, Leeds. You know, I think it's best place I've lived by country mile. So yeah.
That Leeds stroke Manc accent, man's getting worrying. Please stop doing that. Actually,
I was going to say, I don't know if we can see it, because I mean, I'm in the most, like, if you could imagine townhouses in Leeds, that they all look the same. You know, they're just like a proper old Victorian, you know, 1920s sort of houses around here. So you can imagine the accents that come with that house. Like, you know, everybody talks around like they're off to work down mine or something for the day. You know, they're all living in houses like that. So yeah, I love Leeds. It's really nice. Really nice place.
Cool. And just one final question for me, because I've got to ask this bonus question, Charlie. No more bonus question, but Darren's question is, well, first of all, my question which will preempt this question is: do you eat Thai curry?
Do I eat Thai curry?
Yeah,
absolutely love it. Green, red, whatever, as spicy as you can have it. That's me.
Cool, because that was the question he wants me to ask everybody. Do you prefer green, yellow, or red? So you've just answer it, so that's cool.
Green, I'd say, actually, specifically green. Do love a green Thai curry. That's right. I actually had one the other day, so yeah, green Thai curry.
It's always red for me because, like you say, I like it a little bit more spicier.
Sorry, I've just seen Charlie's question as well.
Yeah,
go
on. Ask Tom about the guy riding on the front of the car at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's the only other thing, is that it's very noisy around here because it's students and stuff. So like the other day was Pride Day in Leeds, so there's you know, thousands of people in the streets doing a marching. I don't really know marching. What do you call it? Help me out here. When they're all walking, a parade, a procession, that kind of stuff. And then when myself and Charlie were on, I think Apex Legends a couple of nights ago or last week, whenever it was. When we came off about 4 a.m., I just heard somebody screaming with laughter outside, and I looked outside my window, and some guy was just on the bonnet of somebody's car, just doing circles, like laps on the front of a BMW at 4 a.m, just screaming. He's like, "Woo, yeah!" But I just remember sending videos.
Was he actually doing a normal run, or was he doing an Antonio goal celebration?
It might have been both. I don't know. I should have asked him. Should have stopped to ask him. But it was, you know, they're all just like, they were kicking balls against the wall and shaking lampposts and stuff like that. I do not have a clue what they were doing. But Charlie got the pleasure of looking at about 10 videos of me sort of documenting what the hell was going on, because I'm just so confused. But you learn to expect anything when you live in a student area. I think that's the main thing, I guess you could say.
That is very true. But Tom, it's been, as it was a few weeks ago, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. Guys, thank you very much for your time as well. So if you're new around here and you like what I'm doing, then by all means, please click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get to know when new content is being loaded. As I said in previous videos, Dean, one of the guys on Twitter who makes wooden plaques, is very kindly offered to make a commemorative plaque. That was a word I was trying to use the other day, but couldn't pronounce it properly, for the 1,000th subscriber. Now, when Tom and I went live, we were 51 away from that. So hopefully that's going to come pretty soon. Turn your privacy subscription settings off so I can see who the 1,000th subscriber is, so I can name drop and get you guys to get in contact with me. But in the meantime, if you like the video and you feel I deserve it, then by all means, please click the like button. Thank you, everybody. It's been chatting in the conversations. It's been brilliant. Charlie and Gio made the conversations very, very funny. A lot of very interesting conversations going on in there. But guys, anyone watching the replay, put your comments down on what Tom and I have discussed. And also, if you want to reach out to me on social media, you can follow me at JPWHUTV on Twitter. There's a Facebook group and page set up specifically for the channel. The page for the channel is almost at 100. So thank you very much to everybody that's liking that. And also, there's been quite a few people that I've signed up recently, mostly because I've invited them. But there was a couple of people that have actually asked to join the Facebook group page as well. And also you can find me on fanvibe.com and also Instagram, or again, all using the same username at JPWHUTV.
And don't forget to check out Hammer's chat as well.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody knows it. It's one of the reasons why JPWHUTV has started. But yeah, by all means, if anybody that doesn't know Hammer's chat, go and subscribe to those guys as well. So in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for your time. There's a lot of stuff coming. I will be recording the Man City preview tomorrow night, which will be going up on Thursday. There's going to be a live broadcast at 5 o'clock when the transfer window closes as well. So keep an eye out for those. And also on Saturday, there will be the post-match reaction to the Man City game. So in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. And if I don't see you in the next few days, then look after yourselves, and I will see you very soon.